You got to understand something. You're the most valuable asset. What is the potential risk that you're taking every day on your hard-earned money? You don't take your child that you labored, your wife labored 9 months of labor, going through all the pain, and then when she finally gave birth, looks at her son and say, well, let me hand it over to this person here. You labored for the money. Why are you putting your money and giving it to some so-called financial advisor to go help you grow it? When we invest in the stock market, we're investing in somebody else's company that we don't even know. What if you invest with one of your people that you know? Because the only way you're going to win in anything you do is by
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of You Are Enough podcast. I am your host, Gustav B. Achu. And in this episode, if you've missed any other episode of this show, don't miss this episode. If you're tuning in, whatever time you're going to watch this, make sure you find some time to just sit down and watch this episode. I am not saying so to just make you click or to make you watch. No, I'm saying so because this information you're going to get today might just be life changing for you. The guest I have on the show today, this gentleman is incredible. You can imagine they talk about the stories from rags to riches. This is no bluff. This is no story to attract sympathy or to attract attention or to try to sell nothing. I have nothing to sell to you today. I just want to give you information from people who have lived it, people who have experienced it, right? He has over 30 years experience in the finance industry. This gentleman came all the way from Nigeria as a young teenager in America, slept in a car, worked for IHOP, and today he has built multiple multi-million dollar businesses. But one of the interesting things about him and why I really invited him is because he just didn't build businesses, but he had to build those businesses by building people. And as we know, in this time we live today, in this age we live, there is no way you can make progress without building people. He's a self made millionaire. He's the co founder of True Legacy Life Group. He's one of the most celebrated financial and insurance strategies in America today. He is not only a fiduciary, but he has a duty to always make sure that anybody he deals with, especially from the level of business and even personal life, they always leave this guy feeling better, doing better, and achieving better. Join me, welcome, Sir Mr. Douglas Eze.
Hey man, how you doing?
I feel blessed, dog. Awesome day to be alive. Hi, how are you?
Man, I'm awesome, man. Can't complain. God is good and life is good, man.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. It took a while for me to get you on board, but I'm finally happy I was able to get you. Now, I don't listen, tell me, Doc. I was listening to one of your videos and you talked about, coming to America, finding yourself at some point homeless, working in IHOPs for minimal pay, and today being where you are. Can you just tell me about that journey?
Man, it's not easy, coming to America. America is like the land of the free. Everyone, because of the way the America has branded the country. The America, I call it the folks that took the time to brand America. They know what they're doing. If you're a business person and you're trying to learn how to brand, take a blueprint from the United States of America. They understand branding to the fullest, that everyone from all over the world, not just Africans, everywhere from all over the world want to come to America and live in America. So, I was blessed to be able to get into the country, and, it wasn't easy, because when what we see on TV in Africa is not the same thing when you come in. It
Absolutely.
wasn't easy at all, because some people think in their mind that when they come to America, they'll be plugging money from the tree. We hear all kinds of stories, right? People give all kinds of stories. Oh, but it's not that. But when I came in, the first thing I had to figure out was, wait a minute, now I gotta make a living. So I went out and I started working at car washes, washing cars, in the rain when, the good news, sometimes those car places, they understand when it's raining and you see other folks there working, we're relying on tips, the tips.
Absolutely.
But you do your thing. But then I also did paper routes, and then one day one of my friend, introduced me to manager at IHOP, and they needed somebody to wash dishes at the back. So I said, sure, I'll do that. So I kind of have all these things going, but because you know trying to figure it out, and I wanted to be around people. The reason I chose car wash was I said, well, people are going to come with nice cars. Maybe I might get lucky and somebody will, give me a business card, right? Because I wanted to be where people are. Just
Correct.
it's a different mindset, right? You got to be where the people are, and you never know who you're going to meet, who you're going to meet
Absolutely.
about. And that's what happened for me. As God will have it, I was at the back. Somebody didn't come to work, and they asked me, "Hey, do you want to put on an apron and come serve?" I said, "Yeah." So now an opportunity to go serve people and take their orders, and as I was doing that, boom, this woman sent her grandson to me to hand me her business card, and that's how I got into the financial service business.
Wow. Wow. That's an awesome story from starting in car washes, running paper routes, getting into IHOPs, and finally getting in the financial business. Now, let me ask you this, Doc, because you said something very important. A lot of people who come into America, especially immigrants, they usually tend to stick only around their communities, around the people they know, around the areas that are comfortable and familiar with them. They never try to venture out. As a young man in your 20s coming into America, what was that mindset like? Why did you choose to want to be around places where there are people? Because it's not very common. How did you get to that mindset?
Well, the first thing I had to figure out, I said, wait a minute. Remember what I talked about branding? America
Correct.
has branded itself correctly because when you really look at the US government, and when I say the government, I don't mean the president, the vice, I mean the institution, the entity. Because a lot of time when we think about the entity, we don't really think of the country as a business because we're
Correct.
related to the people running it. But there's president and the vice president. So understanding that I'm here in the country, just like if I work for Apple and I come in as a cleaner at Apple, well, I could stay in the same position for the rest of my life, cleaning the floors and all that stuff. Or I could start networking with everybody around. So what I did when I understood that I'm in a new country, I need to network and meet people. I can't stay in
Mhm.
the same position and stay in the same circle of folks that are just doing the same thing. Because immigrants, when they come, they stay in their community, which is understandable because they don't know anywhere else to go. But unfortunately, the message that you're getting in your community might not be a message to help you
Hey
grow.
guys, in addition to all the valuable information I bring to you every week on my videos and my short videos on different platforms, especially here on YouTube, I also have a community of over 2,000 like-minded, serious and driven people who, like you, are receiving exclusively this time a newsletter once a week. And this information in the newsletter is unique and it only goes to those people who are part of the newsletter community. So if you're interested in getting this once a week update, which includes different tips, different ideas on how to build yourself, how to generate wealth, how to make money, how to build a legacy, go ahead and click down in the link in the description and you'll be able to join our newsletter community. And when you join that community, you would realize exactly how much value that brings to you on a weekly and daily basis. Let's get back to regular programming.
Grow. Now, unfortunately for so many people in the same community, especially people that look like us, Black folks, we don't support each other. That's one. We're very divided. That's right there. And because we have that mindset of crabs in a basket mentality, and
Mhm.
it's not just in America, it's all over, in a lot of African countries there. So understanding that, well, I need to network with folks that in their community, they actually support each other, they do things. So I get information. And the only way they will give you information is if they see that, you're genuine, you're trying to get to the next level. You're not trying to do it the crooked way or whatever the case might be. So
Right.
once I got into the financial service space, I didn't just not just stay in my circle, but I also figured a way to work with other people to learn more and get more knowledge. Because the only way you're gonna win in anything you do is by adding more value to your mindset. If you don't add
Correct.
value to your mindset, you're not gonna win. You're gonna stay in the same
Absolutely.
position for the rest of your life.
Absolutely, absolutely, Doc. And you say something very important, right? You talk about getting into the financial industry at that time with that opportunity. And while in the industry, of course, coming new, not only from Africa, but into the industries, starting to learn what America involves, what it takes. You certainly got into the industry, but I would imagine that you were not really sure if this is where you want to belong or not. What was that turning point for you? What was the point when you decided, you know what? I finally landed on the thing that I want to work with, and that is something you've worked with for the last 30 years. What was that
And
turning point?
that's a great question. Because I didn't know nothing about financial services. And it's so funny because I remember when I lived in Canada, I was working in a shoe store, and somebody actually gave me a card to be in the insurance business. I'm like, man, I ain't interested in that nonsense. What is
Now I see why you are a sharp dresser too. You worked in a shoe store.
right? I did. I said, nah, I'm not doing insurance. I'm good selling shoes. I'm good. But coming to America is different because now I'm like, okay, I just need an example. And it's all about who you meet
Hmm.
and when I met that lady, her energy was good, and the approach was good, was different from the first person that approached me about the industry. So when I looked at her and the approach, and she invited me to a meeting, I went to that meeting and I saw folks that looked like me that I could relate to, that
Hmm.
were in suits, looking sharp. I'm like, man, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And then my mentor told me that, and the lady, she said, this is the largest industry in the world. The financial
Hmm.
service industry controls 75% of the wealth in America. I'm like, wow. That
Okay.
means the rest of the industry is only 25%. I need to be with the 75%.
Percent. Absolutely. I never knew that. The
Yeah.
financial industry controls 75% of the wealth of America.
Yeah.
Wow. Then I have to look for a new career, dog. No kidding.
I mean, if you think about it,
Uh-huh.
the US on just one industry, which is the insurance industry, and the insurance industry have different multiples, but the life insurance industry, they have more money than all the world banks combined.
What?
Yeah.
No, I mean, Doc, you rushed through that a little bit. Take a step back here. Drop that one slowly, chairman. Drop that one slowly. Let me hear again.
The US life insurance industry have more money, more
Wow.
assets than all the world banks combined.
All banks in the
Bills,
world combined.
all of them combined.
Wow. Okay.
And
Okay.
they also have more money than the federal government
Wow.
when you put all their wealth together. The
Wow.
US financial in the insurance industry, the amount of money that they pump into every state in America is unbelievable. A lot of things that most people don't even realize that the insurance company fund in
Mm-hmm.
America is real estate, businesses, so many things that they fund. And if you think about during 2008 crash, this is how you become a believer. That's how I became a believer that insurance companies are very powerful. When the 2008 crash happened, when every business was losing money, right? Remember when Bush wrote the check to AIG, an
Mm-hmm.
insurance company
I
that was
remember
about to,
AIG,
remember
yes.
that? They
I remember.
When they asked for a bailout, the US government, at that time, the president of the US government was Bush. and he wrote a check without asking AIG any question. They wrote a check and they bailed them out from going under. And that was just one insurance company. Now, when you look at the other industry, the car industry, GM, Ford, all of them, they asked for a bailout. What did Congress make them do? They made them drive their car to Washington, D.C. to collect the check. They made them do that, but they
I
didn't do
remember.
that to the
I remember.
insurance
Yes.
company. Remember that? So
Yes.
that was
Yes.
when I'm
Yes.
like, oh my God, really? I see what you, okay, I understand. See, a lot of times you could have watched something and instead of looking at the same picture like everyone else is looking at the picture, you got to now ask a question to yourself, man, what is the message I'm supposed to get out of this question or this picture that
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching?
Mm-hmm. Wow. And interestingly, Doc, you make such very interesting revelations here. You talk about the power of the insurance industry and you give examples of that. I'm thinking there is no better time than now, especially with the relevance of the time, right? With the nature of the economy, a lot of uncertainty in the air. People are worried about their jobs, they're worried about getting paid, they're worried about their 401ks turning to 101ks, they're worried about even their investments on the stock market. I haven't looked at my investments the last 2 weeks. I just decided not to because I don't want to have a heart attack, right? Now, experiencing all of this, especially in the financial industry over the last 30 years you've been, if you are a young person and you had to do it again, how would you get yourself to that goal faster?
Well, here's the deal, right? And this is one thing I teach people. I say, you got to understand something. You're the most valuable asset.
Fact.
You're the
Fact.
most valuable asset. Now, knowing that you're the most valuable asset, how does the US government see you? Well, the US government sees you as their business partner, and you're
Whew.
going to pay them taxes.
That is that is a massive mindset shift, Doc.
Yes,
The government sees you as a business partner. How
yes.
can we work with this person for a win-win?
That's how it is. So they see you as a business partner. Now, the people that work for the government, so there's two people. There's a person that works for the US government, that do all the administrative work, all that stuff. Remember, those people pay taxes too. And then there's the
Mm-hmm.
civilians, which is us. So those ones are the workers. They have a job with the government. The government pays them a salary, but they still
Mm-hmm.
pay taxes, which is the revenue generator for the government. Now, how about the civilians? Us that don't work for the government. Well, the way the government sees us, they don't take taxes out of our paycheck, meaning they don't have access to it. So what they've done is say, okay, wherever he's gonna go work, we're gonna talk to the company. Make sure you send us a check every time he gets paid. So our
Correct.
social security number is our tax ID number as a business partner with the government. So the government takes their paycheck quickly from the check that you make before you
Correct.
touch it. Now, one question I ask everybody when I meet with them, I say, let me ask you a question. I'll ask that to you, Gustav. How much of your hard-earned money are you okay in losing?
Nothing. Zero.
Nothing.
Zip.
Great answer. Nobody wants to lose. Because remember what I said, hard-earned money, labor. So when
Yes.
you think about when you have a child, you don't take your child that you labored, your wife labored 9 months of labor, going through all the pain, and then when she finally gave birth, she looks at her son and say, well, let me hand it over to this person here to go take.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do that,
To take
right?
care. No, it's counterintuitive. Nobody does that.
Nobody
Nobody
does
thinks
that.
like that.
So why don't you treat your money the same way? You labored for the money. Why are you putting your money and giving it to some so-called financial advisor to go help you grow it?
Wow.
And then they lose it. Like you said, you're scared to even look at your money where you packed it because you took it and you went and put it in the stock market,
Correct.
forgetting that you are the stock. You're taking risk every day. If you fall sick, something happens, You
Mm-hmm.
cannot make income anymore. How are you protecting your value?
Wow. Wow. I truly believe that you are most likely broke not because you're lazy, not because you're an irresponsible man or woman, but most likely because nobody really gave you the blueprint. You work hard every day, you show up on time, you trade your time for money, but somehow the paycheck that comes in is not enough. There is always a lot of months after the money. You certainly intend to save money. You want to invest. You want to be part of the 1%. But rent is up, gas is up, groceries, that's a story for another day with the inflationary prices. You've considered quitting your job and starting a business as a solution, but that too is too risky. And now you're just trying to survive when you actually should be thriving. What if I told you that being broke isn't just about money? It's actually about information, strategy, access. Because wealth isn't earned, wealth is built. You don't earn your way to wealth. On May the 31st, which is a Saturday, I'll be tearing up the blueprint and building a new one. The Paycheck to Prosperity seminar is just not another seminar for you. This is actually a movement for anyone who is sick and tired of not knowing where their money goes, who is tired of living for Fridays, who has sang the hallelujah song of next year will be better so much so that their children and family are tired of hearing that song. In this seminar, I will be teaching you how to take control of your income, how to think and act like investors, like the top 1%, smart ways to earn more while you keep your 9 to 5 job, how to break free from this dependency on the paycheck, especially in an economic time when uncertainty for job security is so high. And finally, you will learn how to start building wealth that doesn't disappear overnight. You have a 3-day access to the recording of the seminar after the seminar. You will receive a free digital workbook to organize your thoughts and action. And of course, there will be a live question and answer session with me on that seminar. Because you know what? Most people will work for 40 years and still retire broke, destitute, frustrated, and angry. I truly hope that will not be you. So for a very small investment with the link below, for only $49, you can join us on the inside of the Paycheck to Prosperity seminar. Because this, my friend, is going to change your story forever. I will see you at the top. Wow. And I want you, Doug, just in that line, I want you to expand a little bit on that protection piece. You see, because you say something which is very powerful. A lot of times, especially a lot of us coming from different parts of the world, we come into America, and America has designs around finance, which sometimes might seem complex, but are simplistic when broken down by someone like you with the level of expertise you have, right? Protection is a very critical part of the deal. I say so because I'm 48 years old now, and in our communities today, a lot of parents are dying, a lot of people are dying, and every time people die, I see, WhatsApp groups, GoFundMe's, raise money for this, raise money for that. So you use the word protection. I want you to expand a little bit on that concept and how that can benefit somebody watching us who might be new or even have been living in America for a while, but didn't immerse themselves in understanding how the financial mechanism of this country works.
Yeah, definitely. So when I talk about protection, the what I'm talking about is plethora of things. For example, what is the potential risk that you're taking every day on your hard-earned money? Let's talk
Mhm.
about those risks and how are you protecting against those risks. So the
Absolutely.
first one is taxes. See, when I kept and I looked at the US government and one thing, and I see all these wealthy families, what do? They find ways to protect or minimize the
Right, their
amount of
taxes.
taxes that they're paying. For example, the president today, before he became president, they showed his tax record and he only paid $700 in tax, and people were upset. They were all this. And he came out and he said, listen, I didn't break any laws. I
Mm-hmm.
followed the
Mm-hmm.
tax law. And not saying that he went, because the president, he don't have time to be going and looking at the tax code. What he did was hire a professional that understands taxes at a high level, that might have even wrote the tax code. And those professionals, they retire from the government and they set up a private practice. And then they help the wealthy minimize their tax liability. And the US government says, listen, it's okay to find ways to minimize your tax liability. It's not
It's in your
okay.
right.
It's not okay to evade taxes. That's a imprisonment because now
Correct.
you're hiding, and a lot of people make so much money. So taxes is a big one. What about market? The market going up and down. How are you protecting yourself from that happening? Inflation. Where are you parking your money when you receive the money? Because money is like water. See, right now in Maryland, it's raining. If I don't have water in my house, I'll take a big bucket, put it out in the rain, and let the water flow into that bucket first. Now, when the water gets into the bucket, the water is like, okay, now you've got me in this bucket, in this cup. What do you want me to do for you? I don't want to sit
Correct.
here. You did all the work to get me. Now you have me. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to just sit here and do nothing? Because I'm water, I'm very powerful. I could do a lot of things.
Correct.
Unfortunately, for so many people, when they make money, they pack it in the wrong bucket that has a lot of holes in it and it drains out very fast. So they don't get to preserve their money. And then what about emergencies? That's another place, people. What if you become sick or disabled and cannot work? You've
That's a
lost
big
money.
one.
Big, huge. What about lawsuit? How are you protecting yourself from lawsuit? If somebody come after you right now, they hit you. Oh, I have an LLC, but doesn't mean LLC doesn't mean you're protected correctly. So how are you protecting yourself from somebody suing you and taking everything you've worked hard for? Because remember this, the more wealth you build, just like America, America is very wealthy. And because they're so wealthy, every country, a lot of them are jealous, just like human beings. The more money you make, people are jealous of you. And they're trying to
Correct.
find ways to steal your money, which is what all these other countries are trying to do, steal America's wealth. And they know America is not going to allow that. So understand, how are you protecting yourself? See, the key is once you understand how the government operate, you could practice it in your own family government. And
Correct.
then when you get older and you start receiving income for your retirement, are you going to outlive your money, or are you going to let your money outlive you so that you could now leave wealth for the family? And then the final one, debt. When you die, before you build the wealth, how much is your family going to get? How are you
Wow.
protecting the income that you've worked hard for? Unfortunately, a lot of immigrants, when they come to America, and when I say immigrant, not just the Black immigrants,
Sure.
I'm talking about all immigrants, Iranians, Canadians, United Kingdom immigrants, London, Japan, Chinese immigrants. When they come, America understands one thing. Unless somebody in their community is teaching them the financial knowledge at a different level, then they
Mm-hmm.
understand it. And a lot of those communities, they have folks educating them correctly, not just selling them something. So I had to tap into some of those knowledge so I could educate the folks that look like me, that are willing to listen. Not because
Mm-hmm.
again, there's so much information out there. The question is, are you willing to listen and apply the knowledge that we get?
That 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 is just incredible, man. You drop so many gems, and I hope people are watching this and really taking notes. Because when I watch podcasts like this with important people who have knowledge, who have skill, who have experience, I usually have a notebook by me. And anybody watching, I advise you to pick up a notebook if you don't have. Take notes and implement those things. One of the reasons why I bring people like Doc on my platform is because there is nothing more powerful, first of all, than knowledge and education. A lot of us immigrants come to America, a lot of physical energy, a lot of youth, young and vibrant, and we believe to work and we work very hard, and then we get into our 40s and we realize, I no
Mhm.
longer can put that level of physical energy into work. And I don't have much to show for the 20 years of working.
Mm.
That's why people like Douglas spend time to create time on their calendar to come and share their knowledge here. Doug, let me ask you this. There is no question for the last many years in the financial industry. Not only have you been sharing information, but you have a duty as a certified fiduciary to make sure you share information that is in the best interest of the receiver, right? Now, I was watching a video of yours where you talked about there is no added value in paying your home off fast. I love that one. The reason I love it because it challenged me the first time I watched it. It challenged me, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is this guy talking about? Man, I consider myself relatively educated. I understand the financial system of America. And then I said, you know what? Ah, come on, what's he talking about? I said, but let me listen to Doc here. What is this guy saying? And it was just a 4 or 5 minute video. And by the time you were through with that, it made so much sense to me. As somebody who owns a primary home, as somebody who've also been given that Kool-Aid a lot of times of, oh, pay off your home. That's where freedom comes from. I want you to unpack that, Doc. Unpack me that concept.
No, I mean, here's the deal, right? Again, the first thing I want everyone to see and realize is you are a business. So when you see yourself as a business, because the US government sees you as a business, when you get married, that's two businesses coming together. Your social security number is your tax ID number. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's a form that most people overlook. It's called a W-9 form. In that W-9 form, there's what they call sole proprietor, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's you with your social security number, and they have all tax ID number. So understanding that you're a business, the first thing we as business owners, all businesses always need what? Access to capital, money.
Fact.
We always need access to capital. So why would I take my hard-earned money and pack it in a house and pay my house off? Why would I want to do that? Here's the deal. There's 5 things you should always look for when it comes to where to park your money. The first C, I call it 5 C's. The first one is compounding interest, uninterrupted compounding interest, not just compounding interest, but uninterrupted, meaning when I pull money from the account, I don't interrupt the growth. So that's first one. Second one is control. I want to be in control of my money. When you take your hard-earned money that is begging you and saying, please, I want to make you more money, and you park it in a house, how do you still have control of the money? You just put the money in prison. Now you got to go to the bank to beg them to release your money. And your money is like, why did you lock me up, man? I want to make you money. You just locked me up here. I can't make you any money sitting in the house because you
Correct.
don't earn any interest. You lose the compounding interest of the money because when you pack money in the house and pay off your house, how much interest are you earning? Nothing. The third C is cost, opportunity cost. See, before I spend $1, I'm asking myself a question. Douglas, what would this dollar be worth in the future for my future person?
Yes.
See what I'm saying? And then
Yes.
collateral capacity, meaning can I use the money as collateral to borrow money? If I need to pull money, for example, if I go to a bank to get a loan and they ask me, what are your assets that you need to declare for us to put a collateral on it? Oh, I have a paid
Mm-hmm.
off house that I want to use as collateral. Well, the bank will say, okay, let's do an appraisal on your house. You have to pay the fee before the bank, because when you refinance your house to pull cash out of your house, first of all, that's free loan, tax free, because it's a loan. When you
Mm-hmm.
refinance, the bank is using your house as collateral. So before you refinance, what they do, they're going to say, we need to do an appraisal. You got to do all this. You got to pay all these fees to take money. And then they're going to run your credit and they're going to check your income before they even give you the money on the house you just paid off. That's a lot of stress. And they could come back and say, no. So I want to put my money in a place where all I have to do is send a fax, send an email, make a phone call, and they wire the money into my account, no questions asked. And my cash, I call it the cash value king.
Correct.
Cash value insurance continues to grow and make money and say, listen, the money, my money that I worked hard for is so happy because it's working. It's not lazy. It's protecting my life in case something happens. It's growing and paying zero taxes on the growth. And it doesn't have to, it don't have nothing to do with the market. And every year I'm making what I call passive income.
On that. Listen, Doc. Oh man, oh man, oh man. I mean, you are dropping some gems here, which are just so unraveling, right? And the reason I say that is because I've been through a situation too where I had to refinance on my primary home, and it was like getting a new loan. In fact, not like it was the same process. I went through the same thing, paid closing cost, appraisal. They checked my credit. I brought in some pay stubs and other sources of income. It was like I was buying the house anew.
Yes.
And then they gave me that money and then rolled the money into my loan. And my loan restarted over again from 30 years. And as I continued life and got more education, I told myself, but Gustav, wow. Yes, you might say, okay, the loan was 4%, maybe it's cheap money. But again, it restarted my mortgage. What if I could get that loan without all the additional closing costs, which came up to about 14 or 15 grand? I don't know. That is
Everybody gets
money I just
paid.
gave to the guys. And
Yes.
that money I gave to them came, was packed again into the loan. So it increased my loan amount by 15 grand. I don't know if it makes sense. Or
Yes, I get it.
it reduced the equity I got from
Yes.
that loan by 15 grand. Now, these are some things that we don't think about, right? So, for somebody who might be thinking of refinancing now, or maybe in the near future, right? And maybe taking that money after refinancing and putting it in a vehicle, like maybe a cash value insurance that doesn't necessarily have that cost, but in the future, they can be able to draw from it without this additional cost. What will you tell them?
Yeah, before you make any financial move, right? Before you do any of those things, the first thing is you got to understand, what am I using the money to do? What is the money going to do? Before I go take a loan from a bank or from anyone, I need to make sure I understand what's this. Am I going to be able to make more money off of this money that I'm taking a loan for? So before you refinance your house, we need to first of all figure it out, count the cost, see other things. Because one thing that
Mhm.
I do is I like to educate
Yes.
customers before we meet. Because I see myself as my agency, True Legacy, as a dealership. The insurance company is a manufacturer. They manufacture
Hmm.
product. I'm the
Hmm.
dealership, and there's so many dealerships that sell insurance, just like there's so many dealerships that sell Toyota.
Man, I love the way you break down stuff in a very understandable and relatable way. Yes, sir. I like
You know,
that.
I mean, because I like making things simple, because
Yeah.
the reason a lot of people fail financially is because the folks that they are drawn to are making financial conversations complicated. I have one
Hmm.
gentleman that I was talking to, that's one of my clients. He said, Douglas, you you made this financial conversation exciting that I want to do everything, because my old financial guy, every time me and my wife go to him, we are so bored. And by the time we're done and we leave, we didn't learn nothing. And we
Yes.
didn't even know what he was talking about. See, folks, and that's why so many people are in financial ruin. That's why there's about 13.15 trillion Americans that are in debt. A lot of debt that people have, the $13 trillion in debt.
That. That's
That's
huge.
crazy. That's huge. So people are slaves to debt, which is why the government recruited loan officers, real estate agents, insurance agents, financial advisors to help the government and the banks sell the products. Because think about it, the US government is not looking to retire tomorrow.
Correct.
Bank is not looking to retire tomorrow. They're going to be around. They want to be the strongest, the wealthiest for 30, 50, 100, 200, 1,000 years, right? They want to be the strongest and still be here. Understanding that you are going to retire soon. Death will happen. All of us going to go. Nobody's going to be here. So the question for us is, how are we protecting our wealth?
Yeah.
So when you buy a house, which I did a video on that, people missed it, talking about mortgages. A mortgage is a loan that we took from the bank. It's a loan. And it's a fancy name for rent. And most people got upset with that message because they keep equating. It's the brainwashing. The brainwashing is so strong. They think I was talking about real estate. No, I'm talking about the mortgage, because mortgage is a loan. It's not an investment. It's a loan that you took to invest in real estate. The question now is, how is that real estate making you money? Or is it just a place to sleep? If it's just a place to sleep and it's not growing, it's not making you money. I get it. I'm gonna sell it. And when you sell your house and you make money, when you do the math, how much did you really make? How much did you put in? Most people don't calculate that. And unfortunately for so many people, their children are the one that end up selling the house. So they benefit. You that paid, just like you said, you refinanced your house. You took a loan and they stretched it out for another 30 years, added it to your new loan. First of all, the annoying part is this. I put in 100,000 in the house over the years, and all I want is $70,000. First, the bank would say, "No, we can't give you the whole 70, but here's the deal. We're gonna do an appraisal." Why are you doing an appraisal though? Why?
That's right.
The money is right there.
It's
I
right
gave
there.
you the money over time. Why do I need to do an appraisal to get 70,000? You have 100,000. You gave me $300,000. I paid down. I only owe you 200,000. There's 100,000 equity in there. Can I get it? I put it in there. No, 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 no. You can't get it. We need to appraise it to see if it's worth that. Oh, all right. Now they do an appraisal and then you pay all the fees to the loan officer, to the state. Everybody gets paid and the lawyer that does the title. Everybody gets paid.
Everyone.
Everyone.
You are the last one to get paid.
Then you get 50,000.
Yes.
And you're like, man.
And Doc, man, it's just mind blowing when you talk about some of those things, right? Because one of the biggest things about America, one of the things that is talked about the most, about the American dream, about financial freedom, about becoming something great in America, is home ownership. Now, I've lived in America for the last 20 years, a little bit over 20, about 22. I have owned more than 4 homes, some of them rental properties, 2 primary homes, are foreclosed on homes. But the way I understand that information today and the way I understand home ownership, and I want you to talk about this because it is something that a lot of people are brainwashed about. They don't even understand how it works, right? Home ownership doesn't equate to wealth, number one. And number two, there is the existential argument, own or rent. I want you to take a few minutes, talk about that for me.
Yeah, definitely. So we're always renting. Doesn't matter if we rent from a landlord. Let's say I come to you. You're my landlord. And you say, okay, Douglas, pay me $2,000 a month. This is all you pay. You don't have to worry about utilities and all this other stuff. Or you could say it's all utilities included because you want to rent your property out because there's competition. So you're going to give me based on, and remember, renting from a landlord is also controlled by the area. So landlords don't just rent uselessly, right? They rent based on the area. They don't just go inflate their rent. Now, every year, based on your lease, you have the option to renew at a higher rate or whatever the case might be, based on percentage that's controlled by the law. Now, the thing I don't pay, though, is taxes, insurance. I don't have to deal with all that. The other thing I don't pay, any repairs that has to do with the house. I don't have to do nothing with that. If there's plumbing problem, I call you. Hey, Gustav, listen, And I call you anytime, 2 o'clock in the, man, listen, we have the water. I got to go to work, And then if he's,
Correct.
my American friends, man, you better come fix this thing, quickly. Like, man, it's
That's your
2 in the
burden to
morning.
carry.
Right? What's that?
I said that's your burden to carry as a landlord.
Yes. At 2 in the morning, they're calling you because something, and you have to go fix it. That's the problem of a landlord, right? But
Correct.
that's not my problem. You got to go get a plumber out there and fix that thing quickly. And this gets done. Now, home ownership. Okay, great. Now you've bought a house because you were sold that, hey, Douglas, why are you paying $2,000 to Gustav? You could own your own house for the same amount. In fact, you could get it for $1,800. What? I could do that? And you're going to build equity. What? Okay. But what they didn't tell you, though, is Douglas, you're going to have to pay taxes, insurance, everything, utilities, all these things. But it's okay. You're building it. Oh, you get a tax deduction for the house.
Uh-huh.
Oh, really? Yeah, you get a tax deduction until, like you said, like I bought a house and I started, where's the tax deduction? They're giving me 20 cents on the dollar. Let's explain. You only,
Oh my God. Uh-huh.
they're only giving me deduction on interest on the
Correct.
loan, but I didn't pay taxes on that interest though.
Yes.
The interest is free, meaning when I borrowed money from the bank, the loan, I didn't pay taxes on the loan.
Correct.
I'm just paying the bank interest. So if I'm paying bank interest, why am I deducting that as a tax? And then I'm not even getting 100% of the interest.
You're getting
Why don't you give
20%
me
of it.
why don't you give me a tax deduction on the property tax? The government say, hell no, we ain't doing that. That's our money. We'll give you, the bank can write off, we'll let you go deal with the bank and get a deduction. And people buy a house for that. And now you're paying rent
Mm-hmm.
bank every month. Now you have plumbing issue. Call the bank and see if they're going to come fix that plumbing issue. Nope. And you want money. You got to go back to the bank and beg them. What if you don't have a job? You lose your job. And the only place you've had money because you've been dumping money because you got upset that, oh, I got to pay this mortgage for 30 years. I need to pay it off quickly. And you start putting extra money to pay the house off because you listen to somebody on TV, on social media that said, make extra payment on all your debt so you can pay it off quickly. And you start doing that. But guess what? When you're making extra payment on your debt, guess what you're not doing? You're not saving money for your future person. And then the media tells you, oh, why are you saving money? Saving is bad. Invest. And you stop saving and you want to invest. So now you have two things going crazy. First, you're parking money in a house that pays you zero interest. Second, you're
Mm-hmm.
taking investment risk, investing in somebody else's company instead of investing in your own value. Now, when the stock market crash, housing market goes down like what's happening right now, people are losing their home into foreclosure. Perfect example. Look at all the people in California that lost their home due to fire. What did the media show us? Only the wealthy people. Why are they showing me only wealthy people? There's regular people there that work hard every day. They didn't show that
Correct.
because if they showed that, now we're going to be sympathetic. We're going to see those people. But because we already hate wealthy people, they're showing us celebrities. Oh, the celebrity burnt their house burnt down in whatever area they live, million
Uh-huh.
dollar homes, $20 million burnt down. A regular guy's like, oh, okay, whatever. He's rich anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But why don't you show me the guy that has a $300,000 house that's paid off, that just burned down to the ground,
Mm-hmm.
or his
So,
equity? Now he's homeless. Nobody's talking about that.
wow. Wow. This is brain racking, dog. But so for someone who is in their 30s, for example, They're at that level of their life now where their earning capacity has increased. They finished college 8 years ago. They've worked for about 6 years. They're starting to earn reasonable money and they are thinking of buying a place of their own. What would you advise them to do? Should they buy a primary home, or should they continue renting, buy a rental property, and look at buying a primary home at a later time when they can afford all of these things while having a cash value asset that can deliver them cash flow?
Yeah, one thing I'll say to a person watching this right now, first is, I'm still alive. I live here in the United States of America. I have a company called True Legacy Life. We're all over the country. We have agents all over. We do real estate too. So here's the deal. First off, contact someone that can advise you, because home ownership is not the only thing. That's
Yeah.
just a tool. There's a lot of other things before you jump out there. When people call me and say, Douglas, I want to buy a house, the first question I ask is why? Why do you want to buy a house? So I want to understand
What's wrong with where you are living?
exactly. I need to know what's going on with where you're staying.
Yeah.
Oh, some people give me all kinds. For example, a married couple that just got pregnant and they want to have a baby. And they call, oh, we want to buy a house for the baby. I said, no, no, no. The baby don't want the house. The baby is not interested. See, because I share based on my
The
own.
baby doesn't even know.
The baby don't care because I have a house. We had a baby, my first daughter, and we put her in a room. We designed the room, spent useless monies to, paint the room, all that nonsense, right? Put the crib up there. The baby, at night, you put her in the crib. At night, she starts crying. Man, why am I in this place? I need to be over there where you are. I need to feel some skin. I need
It's
to know
it's
you're right.
incredible the way you break down these things, Doc. Knowledge is so much important because most of us have gone through these things, right? You spend
Yes.
so much money decorating the baby's room, buying the baby a crib for $1,500, all of this stuff, and then you realize it's not really about the baby; it's about your own sentiment of what you
Yes.
think is valuable for the baby.
Ego. When I bought a stroller that
Wow.
cost almost $3,000. They call it the Rolls Royce of strollers.
Oh man, guys, this is why I love people like Douglas on the show because they are transparent, they are open, they are not ashamed to share where they made mistakes, so that way you don't make those same
Make
mistakes.
that
Keep
mistake.
going, bro. Keep going, dog.
I bought that stroller. I was like, it was my ego I was feeding because I'm like, yeah, man, I'm riding. The baby didn't even stay in that stroller one time. And the thing is, at the end of the day, they just need a place to sit while we're going somewhere, right? To drive
Mhm.
to drive them around if they so that you don't carry them. That's all. It don't matter what stroller they're in, as long as it has wheels and it has a chair. Save your money, because your money you save it today is going to save you tomorrow. So if I had the knowledge that I have today back then, man, I'll do things so much different. I'll heavily save, heavily,
Mhm.
and also while protecting my life to make sure that if anything happens, my family will be taken good care of. And I continue to save, and then I leverage my savings to take advantage of investment opportunities. Investment is an opportunity to make more money where you
Right.
buy low and sell high. And buying low and selling high is not the stock market only. See, a lot of people have been brainwashed thinking the
Yes.
stock market is the only place you invest, or mutual funds is where. No, there's a lot of other things. What if you invest with one of your people that
Mhm.
has already sacrificed? See, when we invest in the stock market, we're investing in somebody else's company that we don't even
True.
know. For
True.
example, a lot of people have shares with a company called Abercrombie and Finch. And guess what? Though the owners of those companies just got indicted for what? Sex trafficking, children, and we're
Oh my
giving them
God.
money. We don't even know those people. But yet we have folks in our community, which is what other communities do. In our community, that have sacrificed, put in their blood, sweat, and tears, put in all their money to start their business. They've invested and they're doing well, but every business they want access to funds, capital, and they need to expand the business. And they come to you and say, hey, can you loan me some money, invest some money in my business? You're like, oh, no. And then you take your money and you go invest somewhere else. There's loads of ways you could invest and make money. But what I like to do is first, I put the money in my insurance policy to protect me in case I buy that real estate. Because how many people you just talked about foreclosure? What if a person buys a property, right? You buy it for a good deal. You take money out of your savings and you buy a property for 100,000, but you have to fix it up with another 200, 100 grand to sell it for 700,000. Great deal, right? You buy it for the 100. Now you call your contractor and he goes in there and says, wait a minute, Gustav, it's not just 100,000 to fix it. It's going to cost $250,000 to fix it. You're like, good God Almighty. And now you have a heart attack and death happens. You
Which
had
you didn't
money,
plan for.
you didn't plan for it.
Correct.
Now what happens? The wife don't know what to do with the property because again, a lot of black folks, a lot of immigrants don't involve their spouse in the business. And the spouses don't talk to each other sometimes about their business. Oh, I have my own business here. My husband have his own business. No, no, no. In the eyes of the US government, is one business.
Yeah.
Is one business.
And that's the most important eye.
That's the only way you got to look at it. So the key is before you invest, if something happens, will your family get the money to continue the vision? A lot of people have businesses, but they don't have a succession plan.
Right.
They don't have anything in place to plan if something happens, who's going to run the business. And I consult with a lot of clients every day, just talking to people, changing their mindset, their mentality. Because if I don't change this, I can't help them move forward.
Hey guys, have you been wondering how you could chat with me one-on-one just to talk on your aspirations, your career, your business, and the things you might dream about with your life and you would really like to do with your life? I know it's been a challenge because a lot of people have been sending me inbox messages, asking me questions and asking me how they could get to me. That has been answered for you. I've created a one-on-one program where you can actually book a time. You look in the link in the description. You can book a time and have a one-on-one conversation with me for 30 minutes for a very small fee. If you look down in the description of this video, you will find that information and go ahead and book a time and let's have a conversation. Fact, dog. And I think you do a fantastic job doing that. And I really want to believe anybody watching this podcast who is going to watch this is going to benefit from this. Because one of the things you talk about a lot in your different videos, in your teachings, in your communities, it's about plugging the financial holes in the financial bucket. And this applies a lot to immigrants because most immigrants coming, and this is a personal observation of mine, most immigrants coming into America come from countries that are generally economically less privileged than America.
Right.
And then we get to America, not only the abundance of things that we used to look at as luxury, but also when we start making whatever small money it is, it seems like big money because in exchange to what we used to get for most people who don't even have a job where they're coming from, it looks like big money. And thirdly, without the financial education, we start plugging so many holes in our financial bucket unconsciously. And one of those holes, I watched a video not too long ago, you talked about weddings. And now we're not here trying to pick on people who got married, no. But when I listened to that video, I started reflecting a lot on some of the things you talked about in that video, right? And I started thinking, you know what? One of the challenges we immigrants have, especially in really building wealth in America, is that we are too emotional. You talked in that video about And I'll let you really break it down for our viewers, but I wanted to share what I saw and experienced from that video. You talked about a couple of things. One of the first things you talked about basically the statistics of marriages today in America. One out of two marriages ends in divorce within the first 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, you talked about the fact that the money, thousands of dollars spent in that wedding, is after tax money, hard earned after tax money. Number
Yeah.
three, you mentioned the fact that a lot of times the wedding is happening before the couples even learn to live with each other.
Mhm.
I want you to just unpack that, Doug. I want you to take a few minutes and unpack not only that, but other things within the immigrant communities that creates holes on those buckets and how people can plug those holes.
See, here's the deal, right? It's not about not have, because wedding is a big party. You're
Yes,
celebrating. You're doing all
correct.
great things. You're
Like
celebrating.
many other great celebrations.
Yeah, like anything else. And it's
Mhm.
good to celebrate, but don't go in debt doing it.
Correct.
Don't go in debt doing it. Now, for me, again, I like to share based on personal situation so that I can teach, because there's only two ways we learn in life: personal experience or other people's experience.
Fact.
So for the young people watching, I want to share my personal experience so you don't make the same mistake I made. And this goes to the couples. A lot of times we focus on the wrong thing. If you don't have the money right now to have a big wedding, that's okay. You don't have to focus on that. Because at the end of the day, folks are coming to your wedding and doing what? They just want to come eat. Some of them don't even come to the most important part where you're exchanging the vows.
A
They don't come to
majority never
that.
show up there.
They don't come to that. They only
Yeah.
come to the reception. Think about that for a minute. They're only coming to eat your food, talk about your food and all that stuff. They don't
Who
even
dress
come to
better?
they don't come to the place where God is blessing your union. See, that right there should tell you something. And guess what? The church don't cost a whole lot of money to get married, right? You go,
Correct.
you could spend good money doing other things. But here's the deal. The most important one is your union. That's the most valuable one. And you could do it at a courthouse too. But
Correct.
now, when it comes to paying for a wedding ceremony, the reception, and some Africans have two weddings. They do a traditional one, and then they do the
A
English,
white wedding,
the
as we
white
call
wedding.
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
A church wedding.
The,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
so now when I got married, I've been married a number of times, man. I
Mhm.
call myself the Elizabeth Taylor of
I love this guy. The Elizabeth Taylor.
the for the young people that don't know who Elizabeth Taylor is, she was a big celebrity.
Yeah,
She was
Elizabeth
married a
Taylor.
couple of times. I think she's passed on, but I'm not sure.
Yes, correct.
She was married a couple of times. She was getting if she because she understood marriage is a business. If you bring in, she brought in presidents to help her
Uh-huh.
run her family business.
And
But
it
the
didn't work
president, she
out.
realized this one is not a good president. She gets rid of them, fire them fast. I'm like, man, I'll take a chapter from her book. So when I bring in a vice president into the Eze family,
Uh-huh.
when I start looking at the way they're handling finance and other things, I'm like, nah, nah, nah. This vice president got to go. I get rid of them. Divorce. That's what it's called. But I had a big wedding, huge. But I was strategic. See, for me, I've already been in the business and I had a lot of money in my insurance policy. So I borrowed against it to do the wedding. But mine was
Mhm.
strategic, because I have people. First of all, I negotiated with the hotel. So I'm gonna give you all some tips. I told the hotel, listen, we have a lot of royalties coming.
Coming.
They're like, what? Because again, everybody's selling something. I'm like, we have 300 people coming to the wedding. Royalties, they're going to be, you might get some business out. Man, I got free rooms, all kinds of stuff they throw in for me, which is awesome. I have people pay for the event, the reception dinner, people pay for that. So I kind of got sponsorships to
Mm-hmm.
pay for the wedding in a way. And I still spent some
Correct.
money. But here's the deal, folks. Today, my beautiful wife today, and thank God she was married before. She had a big wedding. I guess on the second go around, for some people, you wake up from the
You,
sleep. You realize,
yes.
man, it's not even about that. She's like, Douglas, let's just travel. I'm like, thank you, Jesus.
You're saving me some money there, lady.
Saving me a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
Because remember, if we did a big wedding, we still got to travel after the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, nah, we don't need to do that. Let's just bring, have our pastor come out. And my pastor came to the house. And we had
Mm-hmm.
a few of our, close people at the house, and he blessed the marriage. And then we traveled and enjoyed each other and just went to the places that I'd never been, that I could enjoy
Mm-hmm.
myself. Because even my own
Mm-hmm.
wedding that I did, I spent a lot of money. I didn't even enjoy the stuff.
Oh yeah. You're so stressed.
I was so stressed, trying to make sure, because you did it at a hotel, and hotel is
Mm-hmm.
counting everybody that's sitting there on the table.
Correct.
And people came that were invited, you know.
Wow.
I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what? I was standing at the door.
Correct.
Imagine that in my tuxedo, blocking, because I'm calculating the money that I'm spending. The hotel is there.
I
Imagine that
know.
nonsense stress. I
I
said,
know,
nah.
Doc. And interestingly enough, just to make sure everyone understands, right? This is not about anti-wedding or anything. It's just an
No.
example. And I would like you to elaborate on other examples of where you see, as a community, as immigrants in America, where some of the leakages happen and how they can plug those. What are some other
Okay.
areas where massive leakages happens?
So another big one is mortgages,
Mm-hmm.
how we pay our mortgage. You know, so in fact, I'll call it, how we don't understand credit. And because
Mm-hmm.
we don't understand the American credit system, we make a lot of financial mistakes. So
Mm-hmm.
most people will say, you know what, I want to just pay cash for my house and pay it off because I don't want to pay a mortgage. I get it. But here's the problem. When you pay cash, you just give up your hard-earned money, and you
Mm-hmm.
give up the ability for the money to make money for you. So now you're losing interest, because paying
Mm-hmm.
cash is called self-financing. So when
Correct.
you self-finance, meaning I pay cash, you just lost the opportunity cost of that
Mm-hmm.
dollar that you just gave up, because it's now not going to grow. Now, you're going to say, well, I'm going to now start saving the money. Well, if you're 30 years old and it
Mm-hmm.
took you 10 years to pay cash for property or for a wedding or whatever the case might be, 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
now you're 40. So imagine saving $100,000, and in one day you write a check and now you're at zero.
Wow.
That money, imagine how much you would have made. Now you're 40 years old. Now it's going to take you another 10 years. Now you're 25 years closer to your retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people save money and then they spend it. They're back to
Mm-hmm.
zero. They lose the opportunity cost of the money. So you always think about opportunity cost when it comes to
Cost.
the dollar.
Awesome, 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 Doc. Now, one of the things I think it's important to mention today, and big congratulations for that. You are an author too. You've written, I think, 3 or 4 books, right? And one of your books, which I've really enjoyed just reading through it, I haven't finished it, but I read quite a big portion of it, is, wealth and preserving generational wealth, right? Creating
Generational.
generational wealth and preserving generational wealth. I think that is an important topic, especially because it's used today like a cliche expression: generational wealth, generational wealth, generational wealth, right? And as an African immigrant in America, that is to me one of the biggest existential challenges we have as a people. The first layer of making money has come and it's flowing now. Now we're at that second layer of the deal, where number one, it's about creating businesses, taking control of owning and building wealth that surpasses us, right? Now, I want you, in that book, you talk about some of the things that the wealthy understand that immigrants don't understand. I want you to talk about one of those very key ones for you that the wealthy understand, that immigrants need to understand as a way of building wealth.
Yeah,
and generational wealth for that matter.
yes, definitely. The first thing, the wealthy do, and a wealthy person is just somebody like you and I that came
Mm-hmm.
in and said, okay, I got America, I'm here. This is a great land for opportunity, great opportunity here.
Mm-hmm.
I need to network and get in the right rooms and network and figure out how to build stuff. And they start asking the right questions. Unfortunately, the black immigrants that come, and I'm not just talking about the ones that, because
Mm-hmm.
when I say black, I mean every person that's black in America, the immigrants, even though a lot of times people want to be divided and do
Mm-hmm.
different things. That's another
Mm-hmm.
conversation. But the wealthy in America, the immigrant that figured it out, that has become wealthy, like Elon Musk is a wealthy guy. He was an
Mm-hmm.
immigrant like
Mm-hmm.
everybody else, and now he's wealthy.
Correct.
He wasn't born here like a lot of people that were born here. So there's immigrants that are very wealthy, and he's like the richest guy in the world, wealthy immigrant. When they come in, they understand the system. And what's the first thing? Well, first, let me take advantage of building wealth using my mindset. They do it. Now, how do I protect my wealth? How do I protect my wealth to make sure nobody can
Protection
steal it from me? So protection is the key. And how do I continue
to
my wealth
perpetuate it.
if
Yeah.
something like death happens? So they create systems that helps them continue building that wealth from one generation to the next. Like people have in the past have done it. Walt Disney has done it. Johnson and Johnson did it. Ford family did it. Hens family, Hens Ketchup did it. I actually share her story in the book, Preserving Generational Wealth. That
Mm-hmm.
family. See, the key is I always ask immigrants when they come, the ones that come to my meetings and stuff like that to speak to me, to consult with me. And if it's a wife that's running her business, she's single, or maybe if it's a woman that's single, running a business, have children, the first question I ask, what would you like to happen to your business if something happens to you?
Simplistic, straightforward question, but very
Yeah.
powerful.
And they're like, man, I want it to continue. I say, okay, great. Where do you have it written down? It's just in your mindset. And that question, you have this minor child, 10 years old. You don't have a good relationship with the father for whatever reason. What would you like to happen to your child if something happens to you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I want my mom to take care of the child. I said, but that's not going to happen because there's still a father in
Yeah.
place, and that's who's going to get that child. What? You have to have
Mm-hmm.
things in place to make sure. What are you? And that question I ask every immigrant that come to my office. I say, listen, let me ask you this. What if you get sick and you're laid up in the hospital and all you could do is move your eyes from right to right, left,
Mm-hmm.
and your family members are gathered around and they're talking about pulling the plug, but you could hear them, but you just can't speak.
Speak.
And they want to pull the plug and you're trying to communicate. Say, no, 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 pull the plug in. I'm still here. I just need time to wake up. But you could hear that you can't move your eyes, but you could move your eyeballs inside your eyes, but nobody can see. But you're listening
Mm-hmm.
to all the conversations
Mm-hmm.
and they pull the plug and kill you. What do you have anything in place to say, hey, if I'm laid up in the hospital, I can make a voice. There's a paper that I've written down on what I want happen and how long I want to stay before you can pull any plug. Nobody has that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not just coming to America and making a lot of money, because a lot of immigrants make a lot of money. They
True.
own massive businesses. They're very wealthy.
True.
Some of them work a job. They have high
And they make a
positions
lot of money.
and they
True.
make a lot of high positions at their job.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, what do they have in place protecting their wealth?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, for some of these folks, they don't contact people like me. They
Mm-hmm.
might go to somebody else that don't have their
Mm-hmm.
best interest at heart,
Mm-hmm.
because again, remember, at the end of the day, the world is full of people that hate on each other already. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine someone that don't look like you giving you financial advice
Mm-hmm.
about your money and you're richer than them. What kind of financial advice are you going to get from them? That's the
Mhm.
first thing you gotta think when you're making
No,
money.
and you make some great salient points, Doc, because like I said, I've lived in America now the last 22 years, and I've seen the progression, especially in the financial life of immigrants, right? When we came to America earlier in the in the year 2000, I remember in those days in Minnesota, somebody graduates like a licensed practical nurse, which is an LVN. It's a big deal. There's a
Yes.
graduation. I remember in those days when somebody buys a small house, because I mean, many people couldn't afford mansions. It was just small house. I mean, when somebody buys a house in the community, there is a housewarming party. Everybody knows that person has crossed the line into the American dream, right? Fast forward today, we have different careers, not only businesses, but careers too in IT, where I used to be, where people were easily making double six figures. You have careers in healthcare today with medical doctors, nurse practitioners, nurse anesthetists who make half a million, $700,000 a year. You have private businesses. So immigrants are starting to make serious money.
Mm.
And I think what you're saying is very critical for anybody listening to us. You need to understand it's not about what you make, it's about what you can preserve to perpetuate for a long period of time. Let me switch gears a little bit here, Doc, because I think this conversation is really starting to get started. Let me switch gears here uh, a little bit. Now, one of the things that is happening too, and when I read this statistic, it blew me. About 95% of all Black owned businesses in America are one person businesses.
Yeah.
And I started thinking to myself, how do we build corporations that are a combination of multiple people who have ideas come together? I was watching a YouTube video on the PayPal mafia. I'm sure you've heard about it. Elon Musk and his friends who used to work for the created a company. When PayPal bought that company, they worked for PayPal for a bit, and then they left PayPal, and all of them have started their own business. Tesla, LinkedIn, Booking.com, all these different companies. The guys have started Stripe, a lot of companies, right? And I ask myself, why is it so hard, dog? Especially for immigrant people, especially for African immigrants, to come together and do business. When I understood 10 years ago that the former chairman of Amazon, I forget his name, Jeff Bezos, at the time he used to be the richest man in the world for many years, he only owned 11% of Amazon. When I understood that Elon Musk owns only 22% of Tesla, I asked myself, what is it that gets in the way of African immigrants to do business together and build corporations instead of building one man businesses like the statistics is telling us about the Black community in America? Throw some light on that for me.
Yeah, that's something I talked about earlier regarding the stock market and when we invest. See, unfortunately for so many of us Black folks, unfortunately, we're very divided. We don't support each other, when it comes to business or whatever. And so most times, and when we get money, we do it for ourselves. Like me sharing a lot of my life on social media and view videos. Why? Because I'm saying to folks, listen, there's no reason why I want to eat alone. I have a company in the financial service business. Come join. Let's build the massive. But how many shows up? They then other things. Oh, I got a jealousy and all this stuff pops up, right? Because again, that's the mindset. But people like wealthy families that own businesses, they get investors. The investors
Yes,
they're not investing, they didn't invest in Amazon. They invested in the person, Jeff Bezos, because they believed his vision and they trusted him. And they said, listen, we won't put some money in your company and let you go. He even said it himself. He said, man, for the first, I think he said 10 years, he wasn't he was at a negative. His company was at a negative.
yeah,
All the investors like, well, but they didn't bother. They didn't pull out. They didn't threaten them. They didn't call him a criminal on, all this. They were patient, and now they're all eating. Even what's his name? Warren Buffett, same thing. There's folks that invested in his company and invested in him back in the day. They're all eating good.
yes,
At the end of the day, it's all about being patient and investing in someone that you trust, that you have the same alignment, because it's all
Mm-hmm.
about relationship. Relationship is
Mm-hmm.
the key. That's why every human being that's walking around is a business because you have the mindset. Now, all of us cannot be business owners. All of us cannot
Of
be business.
course.
So if you find someone that's aligned with your mission, that you trust them based on their integrity, the way they act. They've never lied to you. They don't sit around gossiping about people. They're about their business, about their family. You look at their situation. You're like, okay, you know what? You just started a business. You're working. And they've put everything in the business. They have all the stuff, but they still need money because every business needs money.
Mm-hmm.
Carry them to the next level. If they come to you and they show you their blueprint, as long as they've already invested in themselves first, then support them. Why not? Support their business. Go in,
Mm-hmm.
do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, let the business grow. And that's what most people do. That's what all these guys are doing. That's why they don't mind owning a small percentage, but most people forget that J. Paul Getty said something amazing. He said, you know what? I'd rather make 1% of 100 people's effort than 100% of my own.
Very
So
powerful, dog.
yeah. So right now, I don't even own a huge percentage on True Legacy. No,
Yeah.
because the way we've created True Legacy Life Groups, the company we started last year,
Mm-hmm.
2024.
Correct.
Right? I have Lago Financial. Lago Financial is actually underneath True Legacy Life Group.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we started True Legacy in 2024. We set it up so that we could bring in owners, people
Mm-hmm.
that want to own a part of the company, and they could hold
Mm-hmm.
shares and get K1 distribution every year. We're doing
Mm-hmm.
it differently from the way a lot of other folks do it. You know,
Makes absolute sense, bro. And dog, that is creativity. That is being able to find solutions to make the solution even better. Because you talk here about making the cake bigger. That's a concept I believe in a lot. I say I don't want a big slice of a small cake. I want a tiny slice of a massive cake. Right? Because some of the things sometimes people don't realize. For Jeff Bezos to be the richest man, there are thousands of billionaires and millionaires he created who
yes,
invested in that company early. Same for
exactly.
Facebook, same for Tesla. So there are a lot of people who are sitting quietly today, didn't do nothing other than give him $5,000 25 years ago. And
Thank
today they
you.
are worth $100 million because
Woo.
they believed in that person.
Yes, they
And
did.
when you say the things you say, it makes sense to me because one of the biggest challenges Black people have is a lack of trust. And that is stopping us from building real wealth. And I want to say this, and I want to really get your opinion about this too, Doc. Because as a business person, today we see you in videos, you're succeeding with, Lago Financial, True Legacy, which you've built. I always love the way you roll out of your Rolls Royce, the smile you always have on your face, right? We see all these things, but people don't realize that behind these successes we see might be even more failures than the successes you've had, right? And so, what it means is that you might have invested in multiple different businesses that have failed, but you
Ew.
didn't give up on yourself. And you didn't go holding the people and saying, I'm going to kill you. I invested. Talk to me about that mindset. Help
Mm.
people understand that it's okay to invest in a business and the business fails and you still continue to invest
I
because
mean,
you are looking for that one or two that is going to make you.
investment, the first thing I realized, investment is risky.
Yes.
You don't take all your money and go to Vegas and gamble because you know it's okay because they call it Las Vegas, it's casino. You don't go to the casino to invest, right? To take all
Mhm.
your money to risk. So once you understand that investment is risky, you got to make sure that the money you're going to invest is not money that is going to ruin you, right?
Mhm.
And of course, I've made a lot of mistakes in the past. I've invested a lot of money in things because every day you learn, you get knowledge and you learn, you make mistakes,
Mhm.
you invest in things because you're believing in someone and
Mhm.
what you thought they were telling you the truth and so you
Mhm.
lie. Some people are scammers out there, and they lie to you, and then you find out, man, this person just ripped me off. But you know what you're gonna do, right? You can only control
Mm-hmm.
what you can control. You learn from your mistake and you move on. But doesn't mean you stop moving
Correct.
forward. You don't stop moving forward. You keep moving forward and keep going until you find the right product. And there's no perfect product. The only
Yeah.
best product out there is the product that you create yourself, what you know yourself, because you're the only investment that is valuable. Everything
Mm-hmm.
else is we're just gambling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can continue. I invest a lot right now in True Legacy Life and Lago. Why? Because I gotta keep pumping money in it to continue to grow the company,
Mm-hmm.
right? And grow because that's what I know. Now, when I have monies that I feel, okay, this money here I could use it for, I could tap into some other deal to see what they do, then I could do it when the right opportunity present
It
itself.
shows up.
I
Awesome.
don't just jump into any investment
Mm-hmm.
anymore. I've made
Mm-hmm.
mistakes in the past a lot. I've lost a lot of money in the past. But so now I'm very careful of what I jump into. And some have been great for us and some haven't.
Correct, correct. Now, Doc, you have, I think one of the important things to note is that building the kind of massive organization you've built takes a lot of leadership skills because you operate in over 50 states, in all the 50 states in America, right? What is your approach to leadership and mentorship, and how important are those two key pillars to building any kind of business?
Yeah, being accessible with your people, making sure you understand that each person you that come into your world, your company or whatever, that they have value. They have
Mm-hmm.
something of value and you got to respect them, just as you want them to respect you. And most importantly, if they are willing to be coachable, they got to be coachable is important because I can't help anybody make money. That's one thing I tell people. I cannot
Mm-hmm.
help you make money. If you want to make money, it's up to you because you have to labor and work for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could show you the blueprint that I've used. That's all I can do. But the
Mm-hmm.
question is, are you going to follow the blueprint or are you going to try to reinvent the wheel? Now some people they reinvent the wheel and they might get some success or whatever the case. There's no perfect way, other than I can only teach what has worked for me. And if you're willing and to follow the system, then follow it. So yeah, so that's what we do. Just I believe just staying focused, continue to be true to yourself because I'm a big believer in whatever seeds you plant will be when they harvest will determine if you plant a good seed or bad seed.
That's it. That's very true. That's very true. Um, Middle class in America today, I'm making $70,000. I'm just taking an example here, right? In my mid 30s, making $70,000, hard worker, not too much financial literacy. How do I start building wealth?
Well, first is to understand the money that you're bringing in, what else is happening to it. So when people ask me questions like that, the first thing I say, I'm a financial doctor. I'm not like and a financial specialist, a doctor. There's a doctor, primary care doctor, and there's a specialist. So
Correct.
I'm more like a specialist. I don't just, you know, look at you and give you prescription. No, we need to look at
Uh-huh.
everything that's going on in your financial,
Holistically. Yeah.
everything. Yeah. That's happening in your financial world before we give you financial, education on what to do. Because you got to be financially educated before you start doing anything. So first we need to understand what's the foundation that's holding your money, right? What's the foundation? And then from there we'll be able to now educate the person properly. So what I'll say to that person watching you in America, you know, check out True Legacy Life, go on there, Lago Financial, check out our page. Let's get some education and then click the link and book a meeting.
Hmm. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And now I want us to go a little bit into some deep stuff, Doc. What does purpose mean to you?
Purpose,
Yes.
man, that's big. So, I mean, my purpose in life is to make sure that, everyone that touches me, that meets me via social media or in person, I inspire them in one way for them to take action and change their mindset That's why, I respond to people, I meet people without having any prejudgment about anyone. I give everybody a benefit of the doubt
Mhm.
because my experience with one person does not dictate how I interact with the next person. So if I have a
Oh,
bad experience with this person, that's just that person. You know, the next person, I give them the same benefit of doubt to give me, to prove themselves to me who they are.
that's awesome. I mean, and I asked that because one of the things I observed reading, studying, understanding the most successful people that we all admire out here. A lot of them, yes, part of their success is financial success, but there's a big element too of their purpose aligning with that. And when I look at the immigrant communities in America, especially the African immigrant community in America, the Black community in America, one of the things that I believe is important to really get to that next level is for being able for people to also be doing things that are aligned with what they've decided internally and uncovered as their purpose. Because within their purpose, there is no competition. That's what I believe. And how important would you think, would you say, is purpose to building wealth?
There's different purposes for people, right?
Mm-hmm,
People have different reasons why they want to build wealth.
mm-hmm,
Mine is very simple. It's to serve and help a lot of other people that come in my circle. So,
mm-hmm,
and wealth building is just, it's not just money for today,
mm-hmm,
money for my children's children. And
mm-hmm.
also for me, if I come back again to the world,
Mm-hmm.
because we're gonna come back.
Absolutely, absolutely,
We're gonna
absolutely,
come
Doug.
back. Because most people don't
Absolutely,
realize that, at the end of the day, how you treat people will determine what's going to happen to you in your next life.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, talk to me now about legacy. What is the legacy you want to leave? How do you want people to remember you 40 years from today?
Interesting. Well, the good thing for me is I want my legacy is very simple. The legacy I'm leaving behind, is when people hear the name, Douglas Eze, and it could have been maybe one of my children or my children's children that mentions the name somewhere or wherever. He opens the door for them.
Awesome,
He
awesome.
opens the door for them, and at least wherever it is that's going to be that they're approaching that knows that name will say, "Oh yeah, I know your dad. I read his book, or I learned something from him, or I met him. He helped this person. He did this for my parents." That's the type of legacy. He opens the door.
Oh, that is so powerful, Doc. That is so powerful because I had a guest not too long ago, and I asked the same question about legacy, and we're having a chat. And one of the things I thought about, and which is something that has been a position of mine on the whole area of legacy, which I really call the DNA of champions, right? And what really opened that thought to me is I was watching a program one time on Netflix, maybe 7, 8 years ago, and this guy, he was a broker, a horse broker. And what he does is he has he connects people who own championship horses, horses that
Mm.
have won the Belmont Stakes and all these other championships and have been retired. He connects these horses with other stable owners who want these male horses to cross their female horses in the hope that they will have a colt that has the DNA of champions in them.
Wow.
And then what even struck me the most was that some of them, the owners were charging $400,000 to cross the female horse in the hope that they'll have a DNA of champion. So when you
Mm.
talk about legacy and you talk about the fact that you want your child or your grandchild to go somewhere and somebody opens the door for them because their last name is Eze, to me,
Right.
it is so powerful, especially because we live in a time today when a lot of people get carried away by fluff.
Mm.
And people don't realize that the most important thing we have, first of all, is our name. You've talked a lot of what you've talked today. When people listen to it, they'll realize that it circles around being able to build something that even when you're not living will perpetuate your name forever.
Exactly.
True Legacy Agency, Douglas Eze, Lago Financial, right? And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you sincerely for joining the show today. I have 4 pages of discussion points. I just covered one. What this means is that we would have to do probably 3 more over the next 12 months to cover all the things I have in mind. Because the knowledge you have, the experience you have, the things you've seen and done, I think it is very valuable for our time, especially because most people don't realize that social media is like water.
Mm,
Fella said you could use water for poison or you
yes,
could use it to drink medicine. Water no get enemy. Just depends on what you use
that's
social
true.
media for. What
Exactly.
you've done here today over 1 hour, 30 minutes. This is stuff people I've been to your website. I've received information from about you. People spend tens of thousands of dollars to sit with you for 30 minutes. And here you are sharing it with the hope that somebody is going to be touched, that it can transform somebody enough to want to do better and continue to build a legacy. Man, I can't thank you enough, dog. I can't thank you enough for this time. And before I ask you for your final thought, what do you think about President Donald Trump? Is he steering America in the right direction?
He's running the business. I mean, at the end of the day, Donald Trump,
Mm.
the president, he's there to do his job for 4 years, like any other president out there. Everybody have their own way of running their country, running the business that they're in. Like if folks see, for me, I'm more so focused on what I'm doing. I can only control what I can control. I can't control the person we've elected. We've picked him as the president. I know some people, oh, I didn't pick him. We've picked him. He's the
Yeah.
president of the United States. Let him do what he's gonna do. There's other people around that are advising him. There's Congress, there's all these folks, politicians that are there.
Hmm.
Let them, they're the board of directors for the US government.
Yes.
And they there too, because they have to vote into anything that is not just him. All the other
Correct.
folks, they have to vote to pass laws. So whatever they're doing, they're gonna do. The question is, what are you doing in your family business to continue? Because America is gonna still be here, regardless.
Yeah.
So that's it. So most,
Mhm.
just focus on what your family is bringing in, what you're doing, how you protecting your family. That's the way
That's right.
that's all I do.
So in a nutshell, you are just saying, folks, don't focus on the White House. Worry about your own house.
Thank you. Yes, that's the best way to
That's
put it.
that's about
Because
it. Any final words for us?
The White House will focus on what the White House is focused. There's people there
Yes.
running it. They
Yes.
didn't invite me. They didn't ask me to give him advice.
Uh-huh.
So there's smart people running the country.
Running it.
Let them do what they need to do.
And any final words for us, dog, before I let you
And
go? We're getting
at the
close
end
to
of the
2 hours.
day, yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, folks, the thing is this, being an immigrant in America, welcome to America. At the end of the day, the question now is, what are you going to do while you're here to preserve this wealth that you've built? If you want to get more, tap in with me, check me out on my social media pages, get on there, book a meeting with me, send me a message, book a meeting. You know, the only time we charge folks is when we're doing consulting one-on-one situation. But if you're serious about meeting, then go on and book a meeting, book a session, book a time. We don't charge for all the time. Just send me a message. We'll send you a free link. You could book an appointment with us. But here, the most important thing, take advantage of the information, the knowledge, use it. There's so many knowledge, we receive a lot of knowledge. Knowledge is so everybody's getting knowledge about a lot of things. The question is, are you using the knowledge that you're getting? You read
Putting
my
into
book.
action.
I've written books, you read it, but what are you going to do after you read it? I see a lot of my African, oh man, Douglas, I see you on social media. I see you doing this. I see the first question I ask them is, have you taken action on some of the stuff that you heard me talk about? Have
Yes.
you booked a meeting with me? Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know I could book a meeting. Why not? What do you think I'm doing social media for? For my likeness?
To show your handsome
To
face
show my
on
hands up face? Come on now. I'm
that's the reason
prospecting,
why.
man. I'm trying to get you
Yeah.
to become a client, right?
Yeah.
Do.
Awesome, awesome, man, Doc. Thank you so much for your time. And folks, nothing much to say, right? He's concluded the best way. For those of you who've watched this show until the end, I want to say congratulations because that's a great sign of leadership. That's a great sign of people who want to do something with their life. Like Douglas said, and I always say on this platform, action is critical. I always tell you, if you remember, that a project that you executed on and failed is better than a perfect plan that was never executed. Go ahead, use this information. In the description of this video, you will find all the links for Douglas's contact if you want to reach out to him. This guy has a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge. You will see links about his contact. You will also see links to contact us. You will see a link to about the new book I just published. And by the way, Doc, I'm a new publisher. I just published my new book here.
Wow.
It's called The Seeker.
Nice. I like that.
Exactly. And it's people like you have been listening to that have really inspired me to go forward and take this to another level, right? It just came through about 3 weeks ago. And this book is basically talking about just helping people, number one, uncover their purpose, teach them how to invest in themselves. You said something at the beginning of this video, in the middle, even at the end. We are the number one investment. We are our number one asset. It took me
Yes.
years to understand that, Douglas. For
Mm,
example, the head you have, the knowledge, skill, and experience you have, it's
that's
bigger
right.
than anything. It's more than shares in Amazon,
Of
right?
course.
So I detail a lot of that information here, how to invest in yourself for personal growth, to invest in assets for profits, including things that you talk about, like cash value, not in detail, but just, generally. And then I also
Nice.
talk about how to build a legacy, because legacy is when you understand the value of legacy. You already identify what your legacy is going to be and you want it to be. Then you can reverse engineer your life and start doing the things that will build up to that legacy. Right.
I love it.
Man, I
Where do I get
appreciate you.
that book from?
I will send you a link.
Okay. Do
Yes,
that.
I'll send you a link to order,
Awesome.
please. Man, it was a great, great pleasure, Doc. As I said, this is the first of many conversations we're going to have. As you
Definitely.
can tell, we've already ran for close to 2 hours and we haven't
Wow.
even touched a quarter of what was available to discuss. And I know the guys watching and ladies watching, leave a comment. Let me know the best part of the program. That way, if you leave enough comments, I will bring Douglas back again as soon as
All right.
possible. I need to make him see value in his time to come back on this platform. So help me get him back, guys. Let's get a campaign going. Bring Douglas back. Bring Douglas back. Hey, big brother, thank you so much, man. God bless you. Anytime I'm in the Maryland area, I will certainly stop by the
Let's do
office
it.
so we get to meet each other. This is the beginning of a great relationship.
Sounds good. I love it, man. Nice meeting you, man. Keep doing what you're doing, bro.
Thank you. Thank you. You take care.
Also.